All right, Nick. It's a winning edition of Chatterbox Reds. And boy, oh boy, does it feel jolly around here. I got to tell you. This is going to be a unique show. You know how this can already be with me. There's Jekyll and Hyde, perhaps on the regular. Some might suggest that there's bipolar type situations that happened with my fandom. I'm all over the place. I don't know how to feel totally because I don't feel great about this team. But the Mets are so bad and have been so bad that they keep you just barely hanging on. Nick, I see in the Discord, there's some people in the Discord that still believe. I'm not going to ask you if you believe because I don't know if that's a direct, fair question, but I will say you wanted this team to either win a bunch of games in a row or lose a bunch of games in a row, and they lost a bunch in a row, and they still aren't out of it. I mean, they kind of are, but they're not totally.
This team is my worst nightmare. What a season. I mean, this has just been unlike anything. I'm normally, I think maybe I'm a pretty level-headed guy. This season has not been able to keep me level-headed at all. You're still alive. I mean, you're still alive. We'll talk about it. I don't want to go too far down that because obviously I think most people want to hear about a little bit of a news that happened earlier this afternoon first. But wild season, still alive. We'll talk about it.
We will talk about it. We'll jump right into obviously maybe the major story, if you want to call it that, or the finally situation. Sal Stewart's headed to Cincinnati. Nick, I think a vast majority of this fan base is going to say, who cares? I really do. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to Sal Stewart, but I think that there's almost this animosity that has been built up by a portion of this fan base. I wouldn't even say a portion. I think I'll call it a 50-50 split of people that are going to be so upset that it took this long for him to get to the big leagues and what's happened over the past week and a half. I genuinely think, Nick, there's going to be people that are completely upset. I'm in the boat of feeling that way a little bit, but I'm also in the boat of excitement of actually being able to see him play in a big league stadium with a big league uniform on. And, I'm not going to judge him totally based off what happens in 30 days. I don't think that's fair one way or the other. But it's going to be at least nice to see a new face, if nothing else, to keep me entertained for the next 27 days, 17 hours, and 51 minutes.
You like that?
I love that. It made me laugh. I need all the comedic humor I can get based off what I watched this weekend.
I did that while the Reds were trailing 2-0 today, so that was a little bit of a sarcastic. Hey, maybe it brought us back to life. You know what? If they make the playoffs, I'm gonna pencil that moment as when it shifted. Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts on this. I'll start with this thought here. This weekend, like the thing that was really just making me the most depressed, to be honest, was not that the Reds were basically out of it. It was the fact that they kind of have made this roster to where they've kind of pigeonholed out players that I want to see. Because Andujar's been great, but if the Reds are out of it, I don't really need to see Miguel Andujar unless he's coming back, which I think is very slim chance. I'm not really excited to see him take at bats in September. Same thing with Austin Hayes if he's not coming back. And that was kind of I was like, man, I want to see guys like CES, hell, even Blake Dunn, and obviously Sal Stewart. So that part of it is exciting. Now I'm going to temper my expectations or my excitement level because I have to see how he's used, because I got to be completely honest. I'm not 100% convinced that he's going to be in the lineup every day.
It depends on I guess how much faith they have in him defensively. We can jump into that now. There's obviously going to be a different variety of lineups that you could produce with Sal Stewart. Obviously, I'm very hopeful that he doesn't play third base, even though that's probably the position that many thought not that long ago that he was going to come up and play. Because at one point, Marte wasn't the guy, right? And then obviously we didn't have Cabrian Hayes. And then all of a sudden, Marte comes up, but then they decide that he's a defensive liability, so they'll just take his defensive liability and put it in right field because they can live with at least, having somewhat of a defensive liability in right field. And then they get Ke'Bryan Hayes, and not only do you get Ke'Bryan Hayes, but clearly you've invested a little bit into him, right? Like Ke'Bryan Hayes, thankfully, has played extremely well, extremely well. But the truth of the matter is that Sal Stewart was kind of at one point this year, Nick, penciled in or thought of to take that role on. Then all of a sudden, Matt McLain struggles, and all of a sudden you're trying to say, okay, well, maybe he can play second base. Spencer Steer's a guy that I have said countless times that perhaps his best role is to be a utility player, bounce around, and be able to kind of fill gaps when gaps need to be filled. Kind of like Santiago Espinal to a certain extent, but obviously a much, much better hitter than Santiago Espinal. So maybe he plays first base. Then you could argue, well, at one time, Nick, this team did not have a DH. Now you have Andujar, who's been incredibly good since he's gotten here, but he's also in a weird spot where you don't know if he's healthy. It's kind of a mixed bag. I don't know what they're going to do, to be quite frank. And in my opinion, I would go for it. And I know that what people are going to think going for it's crazy, but I know McLain hit a home run. I got blah, 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 blah. I don't really care anymore. I'll be honest with you. I've moved off of McLain. I would like to see if Sal Stewart could at least stick it at second base. I want to see what it looks like. I at least want to see what it looks like. And it might look like Gavin Lux the one day against LA, and he never gets another chance there. But, Nick, I would at least start there and move forward. Who knows what the hell everybody wants at this point, because I got to tell you, talk about being depressed. I thought we had one position figured out on this team that I could believe in. And then obviously Elly has struggled defensively, and all of a sudden now it's just a firestorm of where's he going to play? He should move out. I don't know. Nick, if I'm being honest, I threw my hands up in the air this weekend and said, I don't know. I don't want to say I quit. That's not a nice word, but I'm done making opinions. I'm just going to watch and learn and try to make maybe some decisions when the season's over.
I stopped tweeting during the games, which is like, I can't do this. I'm just going to be such an a-hole online. I'm not going to do it. I just said, I'm giving it up for a while. Good move by you. I can't do it. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. So I just, nope, not doing it anymore. This is the thing I don't think people realize here, Trace. I'm going to go ahead and pencil in Ke'Bryan Hayes as an everyday player because I don't think there's any way they're going to stop playing him mostly every day.
I agree.
Nor should they.
Yes.
So I'm go ahead. That caveat's in there. Two of Miguel Andujar, Austin Hayes, Gavin Lux, Spencer Steer, or Matt McLain have to be on the bench for Sal Stewart to be in the lineup. I don't think people realize that. I think, Sal Stewart, call him up. Okay. You do have to put two of those players on the roster. I think temporarily these 3 games, this will be my kind of prediction, me trying to guess here. My guess is you probably see Marte, Steer, and Ke'Bryan Hayes actually in this next series get a day off. Ke'Bryan Hayes has started 15 straight games, so he's probably due for a day off. Steer started 9 straight and 18 out of the last 19, and Marte started 19 straight games with only one of those games being a DH. So I think that's a pretty easy. You give one of those guys a day off. You get Sal Stewart in lineup each of the 3 days against the Blue Jays. You kind of see where he's at. That gets you into the Mets series, and then you got to kind of just figure out each day what your best lineup is. I'm not benching Matt McLain. They wrote it out this long. The guy hit homers in back-to-back games, was on base 3 times today. I'm living with that defense. For me, if it was me personally, Sal Stewart would either be playing first base or DH every day, depending on Miguel Andujar's health. And I would figure everyone else out around it. I'm not saying Matt McLain can't get a day off, but if I have to pick Matt McLain or Spencer Steer, I'm picking Matt McLain. Sue me.
Can I say something? I think that there's a small chance that they know that Andujar is not healthy, which is why they called him up in the first place. Because if that actually makes somewhat sense. And the reason it makes sense, I guess logically, is because if you thought Sal Stewart was good enough to come up here and actually genuinely help you now, you should have felt the same way a week ago. If not even more so, Nick. Right? Because there's some guys that were struggling, Matt McLain specifically, that all of a sudden has had some good production, and then all of a sudden now, after he's had some production, you bring up a guy that you now have to find a spot for as well on top of Matt McLain. And I know that you're saying that they're not going to move Matt, but you're going to have to, again, make a decision on whether it's Hayes, Andujar, Steer, or McLain. You're going to have to make a decision in Hayes, I guess, if you're going to include him. But I don't even think Hayes is a part of the conversation anymore. He's been too good. I mean, he's one of the better players on this team. I mean, I laugh and chuckle because it's like, I don't know, a month ago, everybody was just pissed off that Hayes was even brought over here and look how terrible he is. And maybe that's just a quick overview of how bad this team looks at times. I don't know. I'm not trying to be overly ridiculous or pessimistic, but I guess that's it. Maybe Andujar's not healthy. Maybe they're like, you know what, Sal Stewart's going to be able to DH and play first base. We'll kind of mix and match who we decide to put it at, whether it's Steer and or Stewart at first, and then other half the time he can DH, and Andujar is pretty much out for the foreseeable future. That's the only thing that makes logical sense to me, because if you're just bringing him up now because you genuinely think he can help, it should have been done. At the absolute worst case, it should have been done before the St. Louis series. And I even admitted, Nick, I can get on board with the idea that you don't want to fly him all the way out to LA to then have him fly back in a couple days. All right, I can buy into that. But you had a day off, and you are starting a home series. There's just no excuse for it. And I don't want to get too far down the beaten path with Sal Stewart and that whole situation, but yeah, I guess we'll find out what they ultimately do with Sal Stewart. And I'm with you. I'm hopeful that I get to see a lot of at-bats. I hope it's not choppy, but you never know with and I'm not trying to kill. I'm just trying not to be overly pessimistic and rude on this show because everyone thinks that I'm the mean guy. But I don't know what's going to happen with Francona at the helm. I really don't. I give up even trying to figure it out, to be honest.
After this week, there's no logic makes sense.
No, and you can't even follow the thought process of really him. I really.
There was times we disagree with David Bell, but 90% of the time we could understand why he was doing what he was doing. I don't even understand. Like, some of it just makes no sense whatsoever. The thing that's the most frustrating for me is I'm with you. I'll give him a pass for the West Coast. I would have called him up before, but like, I understand that. I can the St. Louis, not calling him up before the St. Louis series is incredibly frustrating, and the reason why it's incredibly frustrating is the only reason, Trace, that the Reds, it's pretty obvious if you follow the tea leaves here. The only reason the Reds waited to call up Sal Stewart was so they didn't have to DFA Santiago Espinal. That was the only reason why they waited. And I don't understand why you need Santiago Espinal on this roster. I understood it on opening day. You needed him to be a third base option because you had no good defensive third base, but you literally added the best defensive third baseman on planet Earth. He also was your backup first baseman. Well, you just called up another backup first baseman. Like, wouldn't even a guy like Blake Dunn make more sense? That has, I think, 98th percentile in sprint speed that could pinch run. What does Santiago Espinal's purpose on this team the rest of the season? That's what I don't understand. What is his? When is he going to play?
I got to tell you, the value that the Reds have placed on Santiago Espinal in the clubhouse from the manager directly has obviously been, to us, completely overvalued. That's the only thing I can come up with. I'm not going to sit here and get into this tear Santiago Espinal down, and I know you don't want to do that either. That's not the goal of this. It's never the goal of the show is to sit here and just rip guys apart completely for no reason. If guys aren't playing well, sure, I'd like to at least point it out. I'd like to say, hey, it's frustrating that XYZ, isn't working out, so we need to do something else. Santiago Espinal's role on a good team is to provide some defensive help in areas that you think you're liable for back end of baseball games. And on top of that, perhaps you could say he could get a spot start, and against a left-handed pitcher, he's a serviceable player. That's what he is. That's who he is. And at this point, he's really not even been great against left-handed pitching. Like, And you know what I would also say? Matt McClain's not been good either. I'm not here to be like I'm playing favorites one over the other. But Matt McClain, I think, put it this way, I think if you just took the blinders off, whether you have bias for one player or another, I think it's pretty obvious which player you would choose in a situation where you had to have one over the other, right? And you're not DFAing Matt McClain. He obviously has options, although I'm not talking about the whole situation of having to let guy go. I'm saying the options of playing guys. So, listen, man, it's not hard to figure out what guys they prefer over others. They don't like Will Benson under any circumstance, hardly at all. And they love Santiago Espinal. So, if you're looking for me to rationalize it, I can't do it. I just told you a minute ago.
And they're going to non-tender him at the end of the year. Like, there's no way the Reds are paying Santiago Espinal $4 million next year. And Santiago Espinal would be fine if this team didn't need to maximize every single roster spot because they like if this was the Los Angeles Dodgers and you had 9 hitters that you felt good about, right. Maybe the Dodgers aren't, but they actually have some weird spots. But I think you get my point. Right. Like maybe even the Mets, the team that I think actually set their club record for home runs in a month this month. It'd be fine to have a guy that can play every position, that doesn't play much. But this team needs every single advantage they can get. They need guys that can pinch hit. Like you have to pinch hit for Trevino more so than probably most other catchers, just because you can't waste those opportunities because you don't have enough offense around. That's what I don't understand. And I'm not hating on Santiago Espinal. Like I've defended the Santiago Espinal. I had no problem with him being on the roster really up until the last month of the season, really up until you added Ke'Bryan Hayes. I just think once you added Ke'Bryan Hayes, I don't see the value anymore.
Well, you're not going to like this, but I got a relative reason for it. I think Tito has more say in roster makeup and management than you think, or what we're led on to believe.
Very clear.
Well, I'm just being honest, and I think Tito is a do right by the players. We're not going to do this. Blah 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 blah. He's not that bad of a player. We're not going to DFA a guy that's meant a lot to our team in the whatever to call it, in the middle of the playoff race just because we had some kid that we want to bring up here. I think that's part of it. Now, obviously, I don't have a direct answer, or I don't know for sure, but yeah, I don't know, man. I'm kind of beat up. I'm not trying to say nothing matters anymore. I'm not trying to be that guy, but just the decisions that were made over the weekend, the types of players that we have on this team, the spots we find those players being put in, it's just disgusting. It really is disgusting. We continue to bunt with first and second with nobody out. I don't know. I'm as close to throwing in the white towel as you humanly can get. And I'm with you, Nick. Like, what happens if you fall 5 games out, 6 games out after the Mets series? You don't sweep them. Are we going to get a chance to see some of these guys that we kind of would like to maybe start to understand whether you want to use them or not use them, or move them or not move them? I mean, I don't know. On this baseball team, I'm not totally sure. I mean, I guess do we go down this path? I don't know. I don't really want to go down the beaten path here, Nick. I want to try to stay on track, but it's just like, what do you do with guys like, CES or Will Benson or whoever else you want to say didn't get really that many opportunities this year in the big league uniform that, to be quite frank, in 2023, if we said that this was going to be a team that we were going to be excited about in 2025, they were a big part of it. And now they're not a part of it at all. And we're filling the roles with guys that aren't going to be here again. And I don't want me to say be overly rude, but we have a lot of retread type players, guys that are just, they've been around the league. They're going to be around the league. They're going to bounce from one organization to the next until they find themselves not in the league because they're just average or slightly below average players.
You want to talk a little bit about Sal Stewart?
Yeah, why not? He obviously is. He's obviously gonna be. I don't want to say the only reason to tune in on a nightly basis from here moving forward, but he's going to be a large part of it.
As long as it's in the lineup, fingers crossed. I'm not counting any chickens on that until I see Stewart DH, first base, second base, third base, wherever. I'm not going to believe that he's going to play every day. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope that maybe that was the one thing that this front office twisted Tito's arm and said, hey, we really need this to happen. This would be one of your ones you say, hey, we're vetoing you on this. But Sal Stewart, I mean, one of the most impressive minor league seasons we've ever seen in the Reds organization. That's not hyperbole. The most impressive thing was last year. This time last year, Sal Stewart was on the IL. He got hurt. He had a wrist injury. Last game was July 14th, 2024. When the Dragons made their run to the playoffs, he wasn't there. So he didn't play after July 14th, 2024, and he was still in high A. So he starts the year, well, obviously spring training, he was incredible at a 135 WRC plus in spring training. Goes to double A, has a 146 WRC plus. Then he goes to triple A and is even better, 163 WRC plus. The most impressive thing, he had 10 home runs in 38 games at double A. In 2023 and 2024, he had 20 home runs in 197 games. So he's like completely flipped the power. And stats like I like to use, expected weighted on base average says that Sal should actually be better than what his numbers were at AAA. They have him weighted on base average, which is a true outcome. They have it 428. Expected is 444, which is like that's ridiculous. Usually when you see guys over 400, there's usually something fluky. Usually they're lower than that. Like having a 400 at that is incredibly difficult. So he's had an incredible year. And this is one thing you love. And we could talk about him not getting called up. The one thing you do love is that this guy kicked down the door. And that's just great because, like, you don't want to call up your prospects out of necessity, which the Reds have done a lot over the last few years. This guy kicked down the door as far as you can kick down as possible. And I'm excited to see him. I don't want to put too high of expectations on any player just because, like I've said, the Reds had an incredible run where Elly, McLean, CES, and Marte all came up and hit the ground running. That's not normal. Some of the best prospects we've ever seen, guys like Jordan Walker, we just saw this weekend, did not hit the ground running. So you never know till it get there. But every sign, everything that he's done up to this point is as true as it can be. And he's absolutely 1,000% deserving of this opportunity.
Yeah, you said it well. I mean, there's other guys that have come up here of recent. I'd argue that Matt McLean, Elly, and CES kind of all did that. I mean, they all basically forced their hand to get an opportunity at the big league level. And now the case is what everybody else is going to say from a pessimistic side is, well, we've had other guys that have been good in AAA and they've come up here and not played well. And there has been obviously a handful of guys that have done that of late, right? And I'm not going to sit here and act like that Sal Stewart is the next coming of Barry Bonds or nothing along those lines. And in fact, my expectations for Sal Stewart aren't extremely high. Now, someone's going to say, they're going to be like, well, you can't play both sides of the aisle on this. You're a hypocrite. One side, you say you had to bring him up for the St. Louis series, and next thing you know, now you're saying, well, he might not be that big of a deal. Don't, temper your expectations. Let me be very clear. The reason that I wanted him to come up so badly is because of the lack of production that we currently have at the big league level. It's not because I think without a shadow of doubt that he's going to be he's going to be one of the best hitters in this lineup immediately, but he might be. And that's worth the risk, because when you don't have a whole lot to lose, sometimes it seems to be wise to take the chance. This isn't like we're mortgaging kind of any opportunity or any situation that we couldn't perhaps look back on and regret. I mean, what are we going to regret by bringing Sal Stewart up? I don't see a whole lot. If that means Austin Hayes doesn't get to play a whole lot anymore, so be it by me, man. I don't give a damn. I really don't. If it means that Spencer Steer doesn't play first base every single day, that's fine by me as well. If it means they got to split time between DH and first base, cool. I don't care. If he plays second base and Matt McLean gets some days off, I'm fine by that too. I don't say I don't care at all. I just don't care how he is utilized at the big league level as long as he gets a fair chance. That's my main thing at this point. And I know everybody's going to sit here and say that I play favorites and all that, and maybe perhaps I do like everyone else. Because if you're going to sit here and tell me that Santiago Espinal deserves the opportunities he's been given this year, because there's some people that feel that way, and that's fine. That's your opinion. You can feel that way. But I feel like Will Benson's been screwed. And I understand people think that this is a Will Benson show and everyone, it's a Will Benson that. Okay, I'm just sitting here saying, if I'm looking at this holistically and what this team's been capable of doing from time to time, I'm rather going with the guys that I think actually have what I would call above big league talent. They might not be above big league players, but they have above big league talent. In my opinion with Sal Stewart, Nick, he has above big league talent in regards to an average player. He might not even be an average player. I don't know. But I do know that his ceiling is significantly higher than a lot of the guys that we have trotted out there on a nightly basis. So we'll see with Sal Stewart on what comes of it. But yeah, I guess you can say that I'm a hypocrite in regards to the fact that I do wish he was up here a week, 2 weeks ago. But I'm not going to sit here and act like if he doesn't get a hit in his first week in the big leagues that he's going to be a bust. Or I'm not going to sit here and act like he should carry this offense as soon as he gets up here and put a cape on. No. If he does it, will I be a little smirky? Will I probably have some humorous things to say? Will I probably say, who would have seen this coming? I don't know. The guy's got a 295 WRC plus in Louisville. It's a little bit of a joke. I think it was 213. But you get the point. 213, by the way, for those that are keeping math, you could probably multiply Espinal and McLean's WRC plus at one point this season by itself, and you wouldn't get to that number. So what we do with Santiago Espinal and Matt McLean and Spencer Steer and Hayes with Hays to be clear for those that are always wondering, and then the rest of, I guess, whoever we decide to throw at DH like Andujar, I'm going to say this nicely, I really don't care. As long as Sal Stewart gets a significant amount of at-bats in the next 30 days, or 27 days, I should say.
Can I say this? I think there's 3 players that should play every day, and the rest of them, I don't. If any of them get a day off on a certain day, I'm not really going to be too upset. Elly De La Cruz, sue me. Noelve Marte, and Brian Hayes. Like, those are the 3 guys that I think should be penciled in every day. Who else plays? I mean, pick, dive full blown into every matchup and every little, hey, this guy, figure out whoever hits this guy's pitching repertoire the best. And like the rest of them, I don't really care. Those 3 guys are the only 3 that I think have to play every day, and Elly can get a day off. Don't mix my words on this. He should get a day off. And I think Craig laid that out very well over the weekend. We don't need to rehash that. But those are the only 3 that I think have to be penciled in line. I guess Trevino as well, but I think that kind of goes without saying.
Yeah, and Trevino's out of necessity, to be fair. I mean, I don't think it's not because Trevino's so impactful for this team that you couldn't perhaps, see him without a day off. I would even say this about Banfield, he's serviceable, certainly behind the plate. I could trust him behind the plate. And you know what? It's okay to have a couple guys in a lineup, maybe 1 or 2 guys in a lineup that can't hit. Like, that's okay. You just can't have 6 average hitters, 1 slightly below average hitter, and then 2 terrible hitters. It just doesn't work. So, I don't know.
Yeah, shout out to Will Banfield. He has not felt like a liability behind the plate at all. Which, when you call up a guy that's never played in the big leagues before at catcher, no matter what their profile looks like, you never know. There's been, I remember 2022, the Reds ran out catcher after catcher after catcher, and I remember saying, well, this guy's really good defensively, and it was awful. It was a disaster. So shout out to him. If you were expecting Will Banfield to come up and hit, you were sadly mistaken. Right. But he's done a nice job behind the plate. Credit to him. And
I would say it stinks in hindsight because that opportunity with the whole Trevino pinch run situation happened so early in Banfield's kind of major league career.
Yeah.
That clearly, I think if Tito could do it over again, he would 100% would trust Banfield behind the plate. I mean, Banfield, I'm not trying to overhype this guy. He looks just as good as Trevino behind the plate, if not better. I mean, we'll see. It is what it is. I'm ready. I'm trying to move on, but it's hard to move on, man. We have these games, for those that are wondering, they all matter. And the truth is they had so many winnable opportunities, and they've just completely botched it so many times that now you're starting to think to yourself, well, if we had 2 of those back, Nick, we'd be like a game out. I mean, it's just insane. The end of this season is going to be heartbreaking about how many times we screwed the pooch. And we're going to be like, well, if we would have just figured out half of those, we'd be in the playoffs. But that's not how it works. So, all right. Anything else on Sal Stewart?
That's the one thing that is most frustrating, but in some ways does give me like kind of hope that like not all hope is lost for the future. Like it doesn't make me feel good inside, but if I'm trying to like rationally think about this team, I'm like, they're clearly not that far away.
No, if they get the same starting pitching, which we'll get into the offseason about whether or not you can trust that. That's the real problem here. I mean, it's almost like they, I don't know. They've been getting they've been given a golden egg, man, and they just decided that they're gonna let the golden egg go to rot.
I just saw this earlier, so I bring it up. Reds number 1 in Major League Baseball since the All-Star break. Overall pitching, starting pitching and bullpen, and wins above replacement. Number 1.
Yeah, so they've quite literally had the best pitching that you could have in the entire league since the All-Star break, and I mean, they've not even gotten hot. Like they've not even had like a crazy, good run. It's been tough.
No better time than the present.
Yeah. Why not now? Why not us? All right, folks. As always, you can text and/or call 988 day or night 24/7 anonymous hotline if you are in a crisis. Please remember that life is better with you in it. You can also visit mantherapy.org. That's mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay to not be okay. We have a plethora amount of super chats. Before we get to those, we also want to remind you, I would try to be funny here, but I'm going to maybe not be overly ridiculous about this because I don't want people to think that I've completely given up. I still have an ounce of hope left. And by an ounce, I mean quite literally 1 ounce. But it could also be the funeral of Chatterbox Reds. It will be at Smoke Justice. Tuesday, September 2nd, 4:30 to 6:30, we'll be doing a pregame show live. Myself, Craig Sandlin will be there. Nick will probably obviously chime in as well in regards to coming in on the over the telephone / internet, whatever you would like to call it. Hope to see a good amount of you there. We had a good crowd last time. Once again, these relationships we have, these sponsorships, they're very, very important for us, obviously, to continue to do a good job and invest more and more resources into this show. So if you can get there, we would very much appreciate it. 4:30 to 6:30, 302 Court Street in Covington, Kentucky. That is Smoke Justice. Good food. They got plenty of bourbon, whatever bourbon you'd like. So you might need some of that if we're being completely honest. It might be a good place to go. So, I don't know. We'll see how Monday goes. But Tuesday at Smoke Justice. The Blue Jays, David Bell's Blue Jays are headed to town, not to get ahead of ourselves in the who, what, when, where, and why. Super chats galore, Nick. We got plenty of them here. Let's get into them. Sarah Reed joined Nutcutter Nation. Thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you supporting the channel. That is very, very nice of you. A Midwest said 149, and he dropped an emoji. That's pretty sick. He didn't even leave a note, just left an emoji, and it was a mustache, and it looks like a perfect mustache for your Cincinnati Reds. I like that. That's a little unique, a little different. Thank you, Midwest. Josh, I think it's Mouse, maybe Moose. I don't know, but Josh has been a loyal member. Josh is always in the chat. I appreciate Josh. 4 games back, 4 weeks to go. Gain 1 game every week. Sounds simple. Hey, man, every time my favorite college basketball team, I got to tell you, gets down by 20 points or 16 points, I'm always like, hey, no big deal. Just got to win the quarters. Got to win the media timeouts, Nick. Win 4 points every media timeout. Just a point a minute. That's all you need. And here we are. We need a game a week. Nah, no problem. Let's make it sound easy. And Quilla the Great says, Chris Paul with a huge 3 to cut the deficit to 50. That's how it feels. I mean, that sums up how I feel, for being honest. But you know what? I'm trying to stay in the fight, man. Trying to stay in the fight. I do feel like if this was a street fight and or a boxing match, they'd have stopped it. They'd have stopped it a long time ago. But perhaps we're going to let we've gotten reviewed by the doctor in the 8th round, and the doctor maybe kind of looked over at another doctor, and they said, send him back in. Maybe we need to see one more round. That's where we're at with this baseball team.
Don't bunt again. Just please don't bunt.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath. Flip Flop Truckin' says, waited till McLean found his bat to bring up Sal. That's it's
true. Back-to-back games with the homer. Let's bring up Sal. It's a great super chat.
Hey, you want to hear something? We'll do this at the end. I don't want to get you overly excited, but I will tell you, if Matt McLean goes back to his former self, right, and Sal Stewart, again, I've never seen him play defense a day in my life. I might watch him play 1 inning at second base, Nick, and just completely be out on it immediately. If you can give me a leadoff hitter that plays center field that's as good as Elly De La Cruz, I got to tell you, hand up in the air, I'm ready to see it. I am so sick and tired. Now listen. I'm so sick and tired of TJ Friedl.
Not you.
I'm not saying he should move to center field yet. It's a little early in the game. It's one bad year, by the way. We'll do that later. But I will tell you, Nick. Nick.
I can't go on.
Well, I knew you were never. In fact, Nick, I got to be honest. You're like the opposite of the guy that's on Facebook that immediately says Elly De La Cruz can never play shortstop. He was always the worst. I'm not saying that who's closer to being right. I'm not going to fight that fight tonight. But I got to tell you, for those that have said Elly is the worst shortstop of all time and he's never looked good there, I hate to break this to you, but last year he was like one of the better defensive players in the entire league. This year he's been bad, yes. And Nick also could go probably 4 more years with him being bad at shortstop defensively, and he'd still probably say, well, back in 2024. Anyways, we're not going to do that tonight. Aaron Amlin says,
how healthy the quad is. If he has a hurt quad for 4 years, then.
Come on. We can't blame everything on this quad.
Yeah, he still needs 7. Will he catch Barry Larkin? Needs 7 more errors in September.
I knew you were going to come with that, too. That's fine.
7 away.
Jacob Doyle says, only one team sweeps the Cincinnati Reds.
Good point.
Yeah, the just what would we call this? Just like the sarcastic, just jabs of our own team and our own situations tonight is quite thick.
Will it be in the game notes tomorrow? The Reds are the first team to only be first. This is the first Reds team to only be swept once in a season since 1970.
Could be 70. Yeah, it could be. We were holding on to that stat all year. And Quillo the Great says, Sal's first sack bunt attempt's going to hit like crack, baby. Nice. We'll see. I mean, you never know. MD said, I'm ready for some smoked Justice brisket. Heck yeah, MD. Thank you for M. Dean JD is heading down there Tuesday, September 2nd. 4:30 to 6:30. Come on out. Ray, is it Racing Gaming? Racing Gaming, member for 2 months. He's a leader of men, too. This isn't just a nut cutter. He's a leader of men. Reds have left 100 men on base in their last 13 games, he says. You know what's crazy about that is I don't know if that's really true or if that's just sarcastic remark.
I don't know. I don't know what the average is for that. That stuff could be so misleading because you could there's been games where the Reds have won by 5 runs and they left 11 guys on base or something. You know what I mean? I feel like that stat can really be very misleading.
Yeah. Aaron said I missed a super chat. I feel like I read it. Oh,
Aaron put it back in.
I did. Aaron Amlin says is a big series with the Mets coming up gives me hope. That's a good point.
Yeah, we'll talk.
That's a good point.
We also had a question. One thing we didn't address about Sal Stewart is yes, he will be playoff eligible. If the Reds were magically able to make it to the playoffs, that's why Connor Joe was removed from the 40-man roster today. That was the significance of that happening today. I'm sure Sal Stewart has been added to the 40-man roster. I know people are probably freaking out, but it hasn't hit the MLB transactions, but the official MLB Twitter account already confirmed that Sal Stewart is getting called up. Mark Sheldon did as well. So they put him on today, so he would be eligible. And Connor Joe, I think, accepted his assignment to AAA Louisville. So the Reds didn't lose him.
Nice. Great. That's good to hear. Yeah, more Connor Joe. Tell you what. I just hope we have a good baseball team at some point where we just don't do this on a year in, year out basis where we argue over just what tastes better, asphalt or dirt. I don't know. Seriously. I mean, I don't really like either one of them, to be honest. Do we have to argue about it? I don't really want to argue about it anymore. I've been beaten down so much about this whole situation that is our roster that I got to tell you, I'm going to enjoy the 27 days because it's going to remind me that there are things that are more important in life than just baseball. It's also going to remind me that that guys can get better, and maybe we'll have some more opportunities to see some guys that we haven't seen all year because we've been watching, the likes of. I'm not even going to downplay. I'm going to sit here and say so many bad things about everybody. The last thing I want to say this on the show. For as much criticism as we've given everybody, TJ Friedl has somehow been the main man that has escaped as much criticism as humanly possible. And yeah, I know it's because he got off to a good start. But if he's going to continue to hit leadoff, I'd like for him to have games like he did today. That'd be helpful.
Same thing with TJ Friedl, as I said before the season started. He's a perfectly fine center fielder. He's a number 9 hitting center fielder.
Yeah, well, he's hit leadoff
on a play. Yeah, well, that's not his fault. I don't think he holds a knife up to Tito and says, "Put me in the leadoff, brother." Or like, and I mean, again, I'm not even going to really fault Tito that much on that because it's not like he has a ton of great options at the top. I think he could do the lineup better, but I'm not going to. Of my list of qualms with Tito, that's very low on the list. But yeah, I mean, I think that if TJ Friedl is on the Reds in 2026, batting 9th, playing center field every day, I have zero problems whatsoever with TJ Friedl.
I don't know. I'm going to just go to the box score recap because if I say the things that I really like to say, people are going to think I really hate TJ Friedl.
Our producer wants you to get the last couple. There was a couple supers that came on after the buzzer.
Well,
no, they were after the buzzer. Might as well knock them out now.
Let's do it. All right. M. Dean JD chimes in again. Says, by the way, we asked Crawl for more home runs at GABP, so we traded for MLB leader in home runs at the break in Zach Littell.
It's a good super chat.
Yeah, I like it. That's pretty good. And Clint TJ West dropped $1. It's also
Thanks,
part
Clint.
of Nut Cutter Nation. Thank you. Just dropped $1. Very nice of him. Kind of like the color.
Mike's saying we missed an Aaron super chat. Did we miss it?
I don't want to miss anybody's super chats, so I'll go back and look. Aaron's he said a big series.
Big series with the Mets, yeah.
Yeah,
Is there another one that came in?
No. We're going to talk about to be clear, we did move off of that super big series with the Mets coming up because we are going to talk about that in just a second.
Okay.
We're going to do the box score recap presented by Nick Kirby first, but then we will get to that super chat. I very much promise you, Aaron. So let's do it because we haven't done it yet, and it's a part of the show, which is the box score recap presented by Nick Kirby.
Yeah, we did have a wild game at Great American Ballpark today. Reds taking on the Cardinals. Reds trying to end their 5-game losing streak and avoid being swept in back-to-back series. Brady Singer against Andre Palante. Elly De La Cruz DHing on Sunday. McLean at shortstop. Gavin Lux at second base. First day that Elly has not started at shortstop since July 2nd. Top of the first, tough luck inning for Singer. The first batter, Lars Nootbaar, hit a weak pop-up that fell in between Hayes, and McLean for a single. Nootbaar then took off on a 3-2 pitch to Ivan Herrera. And Herrera, of course, hit a weak ground ball that went right past where Luck was before he went to cover the bag. Runners on the corners, and the Cardinals would end up putting 2 runs on the board on a sac fly and another weak single. In the bottom of the second, Gavin Lux reached on an error, and then Spencer Steer walked with 1 out. Then Brian Hayes snuck a single into right field to make it a 2-1 game. Matt McLain had a nice 7-pitch plate appearance to draw a 2-out walk to load the bases, and TJ Friedl ripped the ball to left field to plate 2 runs, put the Reds up 3-2. Top of the third, that Nootbaar guy led off again. He smoked the ball to right field. Looked like Marte was going to make a pretty nice catch up against the wall, but the ball popped out of his glove for a triple. The next batter, Herrera, hit a ball that looked like an easy sac fly, but Noelvi Marte made one of the most impressive throws you'll ever see from right field. Nootbaar was actually called out of the plate, but the call would be overturned. We were tied at 3. Bottom of the 5th, Elly De La Cruz led off with a hustle double. Then Austin Hayes smoked a home run to left field, 5-3 Reds. Brady Singer did not allow a hit in the 4th, 5th, or 6th inning. Finished off another quality start. Final line for Singer, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 0 walks, 8 strikeouts. Last 7 starts for Singer, 2.14 ERA. Sam Moll came in and promptly gave up a home run to some guy named Jimmy Crooks to make it a 5-4 game. But the Reds did respond in the bottom of the 7th when Austin Hayes doubled and Brian Hayes singled him home to make it 6-4. Then in the bottom of the 8th, Matt McLain homered for a second straight day to make it 7 more. The Reds bullpen after Moll was lights out. Martinez retired the only batter he faced. Santillan struck out the side in a perfect 8th, and Pagan struck out the final 3 batters of the game for his 26th save of the season. Reds win 7-4. Reds get win number 69 on the season, nice. And the Reds improved to 69 and 68. And with the Mets losing a series to the Marlins for the first time at home in 5 years, the Reds sit 4 games out of the final wildcard spot with 25 games to play.
All right, and we did have, thankfully, a deep drive of the day. Matt McLain, baby. You heard it from Nick first. Second straight day. I mean, that seems like almost like a lottery type situation for Matt McLain. I'd suggest going down to the local gas station and going and just ripping a couple numbers just in case. I know he makes okay money, but he is not making that extension money that he could have made this offseason. But that's here nor there. Matt McLain homered 13 on the year. Fly ball to left field, 100 miles an hour off the bat, 370 feet. That would give the Reds a 7-4 lead. Win probability would be at 97%. As we all know, it would wind up being 100%. DSC, they are a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. And thank you to John and his team for supporting this show. Well, I guess we can jump into it. Aaron wants to talk about it, and we are going to talk about it. The NL wildcard race, there's going to be mixed opinions on this 100%. There's going to be some people that are going to say you're only 4 games back. There's 4 weeks to play. You have 3 games against that opponent specifically. If you were to sweep them, you were 100% back in it. And then there's going to be some people said, have you watched this baseball team play for a week? Because if you have, there's 0 chance that they have any capability of perhaps not only making the postseason, but let's focus on perhaps even finishing the year at 500. Nick, I just gave you both of the opportunities or the ways to think. I'm not asking you specifically where you lie, but your overall thoughts on the NL wildcard in general.
Well, I think I woke up on one side of it, and I think I ended the day on the other side of it. I woke up today, this team's done, they're toast, they're dead. Boy, this team takes a 2-run lead, and I'm like, hey, what's the Mets score? This season's just been nuts. It is killed my level-headedness that I try to pride myself in. It's killed it. It's dead. It's thrown out the window. It was gone about game maybe 60 of the season, probably. Here's what I'll say. If you could pick up a game against David Bell's Blue Jays, and you go into the series against the Mets 3 games back, you have a chance. And I'm not even saying you have to sweep the Mets.
Right.
If you win 2 out of 3, that puts you 2 back with the tiebreaker. So you're literally just, at that point, you just need to tie the Mets. Yep. 2 games back, 2 weeks to play. The Mets don't have an easy schedule. By the way, after the Mets play the Reds, They play 4 games in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is trying to wrap up the NL East, and they just got swept by the Mets in New York. So they're going to have all the motivation in that. So it's a big if. It is a massive if. I am not sugarcoating the if. If somehow you could pick up one game over the next 3 days, I think you have a chance.
Well, in order to pick up a game, in my opinion, over the next 3 days, I think you have to here's what people are after. I'm just going to be completely frank with everybody. They're going to have to win 5 of 6 games against the Blue Jays and the Mets.
Maybe.
Not maybe.
The Mets are playing the Tigers in Detroit.
I'm just telling you. They're going to have to win 5 of 6 games to get in a spot where they're 2 games back. Otherwise, they're not going to be 2 games back. Now, if you're telling me that they were to sweep the Mets, okay, I think that there's a chance they could be a little bit closer, 1 or 2 games back. To your point, I think it's also, incredibly important that they do get the tiebreaker, because if they do get the tiebreaker, the season's it counts for 2 games. I mean, it does, right? And let's not also forget they had an opportunity, as I've said 1,000 times on the show, they had an opportunity to sweep the Mets right out of the break, and they were incapable of doing that down the stretch of that final game. And now you're put into a spot where you have to win the series to get the tiebreaker. And if you don't, then the season's over if they don't do that. I mean, for all intents and purposes. But I will openly admit, that's the only hope I have moving forward, is that they have those 3 games against the Mets. Because if they didn't play the Mets at all, I got to be honest, it seems like too tall of a mountain to climb.
That final game on Sunday, if they split the first 2 games, let's say the Reds did, like in my theory, they picked up a game. It would be the difference of being 2 behind the Mets with the tiebreaker or 4 behind the Mets without the tiebreaker. I mean, it literally is keeping your season alive, or pretty much having almost no. I mean, you're 4 games back with 2 weeks left to play without the tiebreaker. It's basically, you have to think of it almost like 4.5 games back. And if you're 2 games back, it's almost like 1.5 games back, is how I kind of view it. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. A lot of games up until then. A very tough series against the Toronto Blue Jays. But if you win 2 or 3 against the Blue Jays, you win 2 or 3 against the Mets, I think you're sitting at the end of the week in a pretty good spot.
You do have an off day.
Spot.
Yeah, you do have an off day in between the Toronto and the New York Mets series. Which makes me think that you're not going to try to punt on a game that would be against the Blue Jays in that final game, because I could argue, Nick, it might be wiser if you're in a really tough spot where you've burnt your bullpen. You don't go for it. You don't go for it the last day against Toronto, because those games, as crazy as it sounds, those games don't guarantee you a 2-game swing one way or the other. It doesn't guarantee. The Mets series does. The Mets series, but for all intents and purposes, should be treated like Game 7 of the World Series 3 straight days, because that's what it is for this season. But since there is that off day, Nick, I would openly say that they might not put themselves, and they might not have to do that against Toronto. It lines up well. It lines up well, in my opinion, against Toronto. Yeah, I guess you got to throw Zach Littell on the getaway day game for Toronto. But you come back and you play the Mets, not to get ahead of ourselves, but you play the Mets, you have what would be, I guess, Abbott, Singer, and then Green.
Yep. They could put Lodolo in that series. Although I think Singer's pitched well enough to where I don't think I would mess it up.
I agree.
Maybe a couple weeks ago, I would have said, oh, yeah, just go ahead and skip Singer, push him back to the Padres, and move Green up, move Lodolo up. But the way Singer's pitching, we'll talk about him in a minute. I don't think I'm really that interested in moving him. I think he's pitching as well as anyone right now. I don't think I have the same confidence as Hunter Green, but outside of Green, I honestly think I might have more confidence right now in Singer than Abbott and Lodolo. Is that nuts?
I'm not saying it's nuts, but I mean, certainly you could argue that Lodolo is going to give you the best chance, obviously, to have a game where he carries the load and he wins the game all by himself almost. I mean, I know that's asking a lot.
Neutralizes Soto a lot better too.
Yeah, I mean, like here's the other thing too. I'd say, like in regards to the bullpen situation against Toronto in that final game, he's going up against Shane Bieber, so the chances of winning that game are not high. I'm not trying to be overly ridiculous here and say let's punt it on purpose, but let's not be out there throwing our three best arms over and over and over again unless it's a really critical spot, because you got to go into that Mets series at full strength, ready to go. And I got news for you, Nick. You're not punting any of those games. I don't care if you go down 4-0 in the first inning. You're not punting it. You got to try to stick in there the best you can, and you're gonna have to tell those guys to suck it up because this is the season. Now I know I'm not saying that you burn through every single pitcher in the very first night, no matter what, but you get my point.
Could Burns come back? Could Burns come back?
Burns can come back. Yeah.
Craig pointed out in the chat. Burns threw 30-pitch bullpen yesterday. Expected to face live batters on Tuesday in a live BP. Bullpen. I mean, man, you throw him and Martinez. You have Martinez in the bullpen as well.
Right.
I mean, that bullpen's a lot tougher. Now, again, that's a tough spot for Burns.
Right.
I mean, he's the number 2 pick, so you kind of, you want the number 2 pick, you got to get thrown into these spots. Right. It's a tough spot for him, but I'd be interested. It almost feels like the Reds could be trying to strategically bring him back.
Yeah, he's got to be in the bullpen too. Like I'm not gonna replace Burns with any of the guys that we currently have in our rotation, and that's including Littell.
Yeah,
that's including Littell. Like I'm not doing that, and the reason for that is because he's already a complete wild card, and he's already showcased. I don't want to say the inability, because I think he can do it. He showcased the inability to be consistent, and right now the Reds need some semblance of consistency, and I'd rather have these, I guess, roller coasters of outings in a bullpen spot than I would a starting pitching role.
I also love the idea of teams not being able to really prepare for him. Like I think it's a lot easier to prepare for Chase Burns at a start. Obviously, the Boston Red Sox had a little bit of success with that. Right. But if you don't know when he's coming, you're not going to – like, I'm sure they prepare for him, but you're not preparing at nearly the same level as if he's starting. And, I mean, you throw him out on a game that you're kind of, now I'm seeing Chase Burns. I think he's a lot more – has the potential to be a lot more dominant. He was pretty dominant as a starter when we last saw him.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's it. I mean, it's as simple as that. You got a Toronto series in front of you, and the truth is they play a lot of good teams here moving forward. There's no way backing you can't back into the postseason here. This isn't going to happen. Like, you're going to have to go out and play really, really good baseball. Period. Really good baseball. If they play the way they played in the last week and a half, forget it. It's curtains by next Sunday. I can guarantee it. Guarantee it. They're going to have to play better.
Mets have to play a lot of good teams too.
Yes, but let's be frank here. Us catching the Mets is just as likely as us not being caught by the Cardinals. Maybe one would argue the Cardinals have a better chance of catching us. We're gonna have to play good baseball.
I agree.
Like,
I'm just saying It's not like you're like when we were talking about the trade deadline. We were talking about the Reds and Padres. People remember that. It feels like a million years ago.
Oh, I remember.
The Padres have a cake schedule down the stretch where the Mets don't. And again, that doesn't mean a whole lot because the Mets just swept the Phillies and then lost 3 or 4 to the Marlins. Right. Reds just lost a series to the Cardinals after, the last month they've won some series that we didn't expect them to. So yeah, on any given night, it's anyone's game in Major League Baseball unless you're playing the Colorado Rockies or Chicago White Sox. But I would obviously rather, have an easy schedule and a tough schedule.
Yeah. Let's also make no mistake. The Mets are going to treat the 3-game series against the Reds like the World Series too. They're well aware that really the only team that has a chance of catching them is if they botch the Reds series. That could be good or bad. That could be good or bad.
Thankfully, the Reds are missing the what's his name? Noah. He's going to go against the Tigers. Noah, I think I hit the wrong one. Noah, what's his last? McLean? Did I say his name?
Well enough. I know
The guy
that.
he's been incredible. Right now, the Reds would face Jonah Tong, who I think that would be his third big league start.
Yeah.
David Peterson and Kodai Senga. Peterson and Senga have been great, but they have having good years, but they have been really bad of late.
Right.
So the Mets could switch it up, but the pitching matchups I think favor the Reds in that series.
Yeah, no, the Mets have a tough schedule as well. Shout out to Craig working behind the scenes here. He has their schedule up. You know, they obviously they got the Tigers with an off day before they come to play the Reds in that big series, but then they go and they play the Phillies, as you mentioned just a minute ago, in a 4-game set on the road. Then they got to play the Rangers, Padres, Nationals, Cubs, Marlins, and obviously the Marlins aren't a pushover. That team's not a pushover team.
That is a nightmare team to play the last 3 games of a season against on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and the longer, let me say this, the closer you get to the end and you know, the teams that are out of it, they have fun playing spoiler. I mean, they really do. Like that gives you a reason to play, right? It's like, let's like our season's over. Let's try to hose these guys. That seems fun. Why not? And kind of playing with that mentality sometimes that you got nothing to lose is almost like, you know, like you said, Nick, your worst nightmare. So we'll see.
And a young team is the worst nightmare. I think that the veteran teams that have had bad years, I don't mind playing them because I think those teams, for the most part, you're not going to get the same. But I think those young, hungry teams where every guy's trying to earn a contract, that's a nightmare. That Marlins team, man, I watched obviously a lot of that series. Like, it wasn't like completely fluky that they beat the Mets. Yes, I mean the Mets are clearly the better team, but that team, man, they've got some good players. They play hard. Yeah. They're a fun, scrappy team. And I would not want to play them. Now the Reds play the Brewers, but thankfully the Brewers could have everything wrapped up. Yeah, so
good. Yeah, and to be honest, they might
not going to be excited about that though. I'm not refuse to ever let my brain go there.
I was going to say they could also throw the games based off the idea that they're like, well, who would we rather possibly face in the playoffs, the Mets or the Reds? And be like, let's let the Reds try to get in here. Let's see if we can't get them in here. The weekend.
Yeah, they could play 3D chess though and be like, you know what? Because they couldn't play the team until the NLCS.
I know.
They could be like, you know what? We kind of want the Mets to be in because they have a better chance of knocking out the Dodgers.
Fair. Well, you never know.
3D chess in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I know. They got a lot more things going on than just 3D chess in Milwaukee. I don't know what's going on up there, but congratulations to them. All right, well, listen, season's not dead. It's not dead. It's on life support. There's no doubt about it. It is on life support. But let's all wish and hope and pray that we got some more games that obviously matter as much as the next. On a night-by-night basis. And a big part of that is guys who produce the day, Nick. Matt McLain, top of the list here on the rundown. Another home run, back-to-back games where he's shown off that he has some power left in that bat. I don't know what you make of it. I don't know what I make of it. But I guess it's nice to see if nothing else.
Well, the nice thing, the guy has 13 home runs and he's felt completely lost at the plate. Like that's a pretty positive sign of a hitter that could return to form. I don't know. I like today was really good. Today was a really good day for Matt McLain. The 7-pitch walk was almost impressive because it felt like 3 times like, this is the pitch he's going to strike out on. Oh, he took it. Oh, he fouled it off. And he kept doing it, and he drew that walk. That walk was really impressive. That was when the Reds really needed it at that spot in the game. Good to see him homer twice. And I've said before, I'll say it again, the best solution for the Reds is Matt McLain to take over second base and be average at it. There's not even a close second. So, I don't know. I'm riding with Matt McLain as much as anything just because if September is a disaster for the Reds, but Matt McLain plays well, that's a pretty hell of a silver lining for me. The year.
It's a silver lining if he continues to find his former self. But I'm done with these guys that trick you for, 15 days and then they go on a month and a half hiatus of being a terrible baseball player, and then they trick you again for 15 more days and you keep doing the same song and dance, and at some point you realize they're just not that great of a player, but they show signs of brilliance at times we'll see. Matt McLain's a weird one. I would argue in 2023, Nick, there was not one player on the Reds, including Elly De La Cruz, that I did not think the floor was as low or as high as it was. I thought Matt McLain was going to be at the worst, man, at the absolute worst, maybe an average big leaguer. That's obviously not proved to be the case this year. So I was wrong on him, but hopefully, similar to obviously Noel V. Marte, he finds his stride again. I think more than anything, Nick, as goofy as it is to say, but we all can know that it's 100% factual. It's confidence. What percentage of it is just confidence? I don't know, but it seems to be a pretty large portion of it for me. I just don't think a guy that had looked as good as he had, even with the injury. And I mean, I know there are going to be people that say, well, you keep pointing out 2023 and that was all pre-injury. Everything that's been post-injury has not looked nearly the same as he was. That's partly true, but I just have a feeling that there's a better player in there somewhere. But I'm also willing to admit, Nick, that we can't continue to let guys play this long in the big leagues that have been this bad if you want to be a legitimate baseball team. And we'll see. Matt McLain hopefully can find a way to get it going. And like you said, if that's the silver lining and he continues to find a way to be at least an average player heading into 2026, then we might be onto something. Terry Francona, Nick, he had something to say.
Yeah, Terry Francona said, that was terrific. He had 2 walks early, which is always a good sign. He's just been a little more aggressive to the ball. That's a really good thing for him right now.
Terry Francona likes Matt McLain. I think it's safe to say.
He does. He does.
Yeah, he likes Matt McLain.
Jacob Doyle brought up an interesting point. He said Gleyber Torres, second base. Torres is a free agent at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I think most Reds fans would have taken Matt McLain over Gleyber Torres 5 months ago. Gleyber Torres had a 105 WRC plus last year. That's why it's important. I mean, like, if you have to go out and sign a free agent second baseman, which the Reds aren't going to do, but if they did, I mean, like, you want to go sign a free agent left fielder or maybe a first baseman or more pitching, more dominant reliever. Like, you don't want to spend money on second, but that's why it's so important. I mean, Matt McLain, 2023 Matt McLain was a $30 million player. On the open market. It's just for that production level that year.
Exactly,
like, that's why it matters so much.
Yeah. He was one of the reasons as to why you can play or have a team as good as they are with the payroll they have. I mean, you got to find guys that cheat the system where you're getting incredible value based off what you're paying them in this market, in the Reds market. And there's only so many of those guys that we could possibly do that with, right? As soon as you go to the open market, Nick, and you got to go and let's just say, for instance, you got to find a free agent. The chances of you getting production above and beyond what you're paying them to a significant level is not very high. It's just the chances are not very high because every other team has an opportunity to sign them as well. Let's face it. The reason that you get excited about prospects and the reason that Matt McLain was a huge addition to this baseball team at one point was because you're not paying them a whole lot of money, especially if it's pre-arbitration. And if they're capable of providing production that is worth a significant amount on the open market, that's how you win as a small market team. So we'll find out whether or not he's capable of doing that again. But, we're not going to do this on this show because we have more important things to talk about. And I know that we can save these types of discussions for the offseason, especially when otherwise I won't even have a co-host if we do this for too much longer. But I will openly say, Nick, that if Matt McLain did play really, really well, right? Like if he was his former self of 2023, I do think that there could be reasonable discussion about Elly's position and where you could possibly move him if you feel like he's going to be a defensive liability moving forward. Now that's a whole nother argument. But I will openly admit the reason that I've not been even really open to that idea is because there's no one else that can play that position that can provide some offensive firepower at the plate right now anyways. So Matt McLain is a vital piece to this team, but I don't want to be wishy-washy with it. I need to know if he's going to be a solid player or not. We can't do this because it's holistically looking at this thing. Matt McLain's been bad this year, period, point blank. Whether we like to think that he might get better or not, he's not been good enough, and that's a large portion as to why this Reds team is in the position they're in right now, is because they've gotten a lack of production out of his position, and he's been terrible at the plate. So, we'll see.
Yeah, it's because he hasn't been a 3-win player or 4-win player like he was projected to be.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's all on him, but he's a big part of it. Saying guys are a disappointment is tough because on one hand, if you're disappointed in a player, it means that you had expectations for them, which is a good thing, which means that you think that they're a good player. Matt McLain's been one of the biggest disappointments because of the level of confidence and also what we expected from him. Not because he can't bounce back, etc., but what we expected out of him versus what we've gotten. And I would argue that for some other positions of what I would call strength as well. Whether you want to say it's CES's fault, Nick, or not, or whether you want to say it's Spencer Steer's fault or not, or whether you want to say it's Tito's fault because of who he puts there. But we've obviously had a lack of production on the right side of the infield all season long from an offensive standpoint. All right, Austin Hayes. I guess he's going to be kind of a lightning rod situation here, Nick, because if he doesn't play well at all for a short amount of time, he's probably going to be the one guy, especially when you factor in Sal Stewart trying to get in the lineup, that many Reds fans are probably going to be tired of watching and or giving opportunities to, because he's not a guy that's going to probably maybe even be here. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not trying to downplay it or sit here and act like it's not possible. But your thoughts on Hayes, and I guess even more importantly, maybe even moving forward beyond just today.
Yeah, Hayes has been a guy that feels like every time I've been like completely like this guy cannot play whatever gets right pitching. Then he just has a week, and it's like he does just enough to not be a platoon player. Like that's what he's felt like. He had among a terrible week for the Reds. Austin Hayes had a great week. Last 8 games, 10 for 28, 2 home runs, had a double. So, I mean, for a Reds team that hasn't played very well, Austin Hayes has played really well the last 8 games. I don't believe in him against right-handed pitching, especially given the players that are going to be on the bench instead of him. But he's had a good 8 days, and I don't know. I don't think I would start him, but the Reds just keep getting in a spot where there's just guys that just do enough to not get benched, and it's like great. It's like, yes, he's playing well, but it's like there's no clarity. That's the one thing I will say that has been, I think, difficult for Tito managing this team this year is no one outside of maybe McLain, who's by far their best defender at second base. No one else has really had these like stretches that they were so bad that it was clear that they had to be benched. It's been just enough guys that have just done enough, and you go down the list of guys that fit that criteria.
Yeah, a bunch of mid players, man. A bunch of mid players. It's tough to not just manage, really. It's tough to be a fan of this kind of roster because what you just said. I mean, Jake Fraley was a guy that we Nick, at one point, I didn't know if there was a player that you ever disliked more in regards to getting opportunities than when Jake Fraley was struggling. And to be fair to Jake Fraley, he kind of turned it around there for a minute to where it was like, okay, well, maybe this is why you continue to give him opportunities. And then all of a sudden, they DFA him. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can go down the list of a lot of guys on this team that are just, and I guess this is what it comes down to, Nick. Like, the question of the day really is, you've watched a lot longer than me, but you watch this franchise for long enough, and you start to question whether or not you remember what a really good team even looks like on a day-to-day basis. And I even think that it's kind of crazy to look back on it all, but even when the Reds were really, really solid, you kind of take it for granted. You also can kind of say, like, if you're a Mets fan or a Yankees fan, all these other fan bases, they're all upset too, but they're upset for different reasons. I think we've gotten ourselves to a point in Reds fandom that if a guy's an average player, we seem to treat them around here like they're a little bit of an above average player. If there's a player that seems to be getting all of the praise and is touted as a superstar. And really the only one I can go back to and think off the top of my head personally is Joey Votto. And then obviously the current day version of that is Elly De La Cruz. And I'm not trying to compare those two players at all, so don't even think about sending me hate mail, okay? All I'm saying is that from a national perspective and the rise of a fan base thinking that these certain players are significantly better than others, whatever you want to call it, Joey Votto got a lot of hate in this town for various things. Whether they were deserved or not deserved, I don't know. And maybe that's just what happens in other cities. I don't really know either because I've not lived in other cities and I've not been fans of other teams to know. But maybe that's what happens at every fan base, is that if you're considered one of the star players or one of the better players, it doesn't even really matter whether or not you're playing up to a certain level that you would still deem as well. Someone's always going to try to pick you apart because you're supposed to be the best player. I don't know. I don't really know if this town anymore knows what a good baseball team even looks like. And I know that sounds really harsh to say, but it's been so long that I don't think that we do. And I think we pick on guys sometimes that are probably good enough to be on a good baseball team, and we give passes to guys because they play hard, they dive head first, they run into walls, and they do somersaults or whatever else, or they wear their, they wear sleeveless, shirts before the game and they got guns out or whatever the hell else people do to make you love them. I mean, there was a point, genuinely, Nick, at some point where Kyle Farmer was basically, to some people, Barry Larkin. I'm saying all this just to say this roster's not great. I'm hopeful here soon, Nick, we get to see a good roster or a great roster. And if we do that, I think we'll always look back at 2024, 2025 and be like, man, our love of the Reds kind of got in the way, didn't it? We didn't really see us for who we really were. And I think Austin Hayes is a big part of that. I think he's an average player. He's not anything more.
Do you want to hear something crazy? The 2012 Reds had a 93 WRC plus. The 2025 Reds have a 92 WRC plus. That's not counting today. They could have gone up because they hit 2 home runs today. So it's crazy that the best Reds team in my lifetime, at least by wins, the offense wasn't much better. Now, they were much better defensively. Now, Brian Hayes closes the gap as Brian Hayes hasn't been here all year. And that team was elite defensively, and that team's bullpen was absolutely elite. I mean, their 7th, 8th, 9th, Broxton, Marshall, Chapman was untouchable. But the starting pitching, I think the starting pitching was better in 2012, but they're not that far off. It's what kind of like they're maybe not as far away from the 2012 team as I think a lot of people probably think. That's my really optimistic point is you shore up the defense a little bit more, which I think they're on the way to doing that, even though they've done a lot of very annoying things in regards to that. The starting pitching continues to develop. You get full seasons out of Green, Lodolo, etc. And hopefully you can maneuver and have a better bullpen, which I think there's signs that there's guys that could step into those roles, and you have starters that could move to the bullpen as well. That's my most optimistic, is that they're maybe not as crazy far away from that as people think.
The only side of that is that they're in regards to the way that the scheduling works anymore in MLB, it's nowhere near what it was in 2012. They played a lot of in division or I guess what I would call division opponents. And in that year, Nick, of 2012, the Astros were in this division. They won 55 games that year. Okay. The Cubs, the Cubs were in this division. Of course, obviously they won 61 games. Okay. The Pirates won 79 games, and the Brewers won 83 games. Yes, we did have the Cardinals, and they were a formidable opponent. They won 88 games. But my point in saying that is you can beat up on the Astros, the Cubs, and the Pirates, and it kind of can help that perception of what that all looks like. You really don't get that anymore. You have to play what is what I would call a relatively balanced schedule, fair and balanced schedule in regards to league play, a little bit more than you had. And on top of that, you have the Brewers who are going to win 120 games this year. I joke a little bit, but it's, it is what it is. And my point, and you also have the Cubs who are a really good baseball team, and you can say whatever you want, but I don't think that any of the other teams are pushovers. They're not like they're the Rockies or maybe even the White Sox or whoever the hell else you want to deem as one of the worst teams in baseball. So that's the difference, is that we're in a situation where we don't have a terrible, terrible division right now.
Yeah. And a lot of things have to go right for you to win 97 games too. That team was also incredible in one-run games, but to their credit, their bullpen was dominant. Sure. And I think that makes it's really hard to be bad, terrible in one-run games with a great bullpen. Like you can still be maybe average if you have bad. There's a lot of luck involved with that, but a really dominant bullpen goes a long way in that.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's jump in. Obviously, Brady Singer had a pretty good day today. He always gets the. He seems like he always just gets like the least amount of praise for doing a pretty serviceable job. So I'll let you give. I'll let you give Brady Singer some love here real quick, and then we'll move on, obviously, to the bullpen and jump into some MILB.
I thought Brady Singer was incredible today. He only gave up 4 hard hit balls. I mean, he had some brutal luck. And the way things are going for the Reds, I mean, giving up those 2 cheap runs, for him to come out and throw up zeros almost the rest of the game was impressive. I mean, how about this? His last 7 starts, he's only given up 2 home runs. 47 strikeouts in 42 innings. That's above his normal. Only walked 10 batters. Like what he's done is my point is, it's not a fluke. Like his FIP, I think, was still in the low 3s over like his last 7 starts. So a lot of times a guy like Brady Singer, you'll see like kind of him have these great stretches, but it's just the variance of a guy that isn't a Hunter Green type pitcher, where they're going to have good start. And it's not really like they're doing anything much different than the other. He's actually been very dominant the last 7 starts. So I'm very impressed with what he's done. I think I said it a couple weeks ago. Could Singer kind of have that end of the year Martinez like last year? Maybe. I mean, you get a big month out of September with Brady Singer. I mean, that's huge. You just hope that these Mets rookies that are coming up like actually look like rookies at some point. And then your guys like Brady Singer that are veterans, are able to finish the season like a veteran would. And that's the one thing that could be the difference in this, because the Mets have a lot. Their starting pitching is all unproven, which is wild. Like the Reds starting pitching is so much more proven, I think, than the Mets starting pitching, which is crazy to think, because they're not a whole bunch of old guys. But yeah, I was very impressed with Brady Singer today. I've been very impressed with him. You talk about moves that do give you some faith in the front office. It's the Brady Singer trade, because this has been an absolute home run trade for the Reds.
Yeah, it's what's funny is it feels like the front office is very similar to this roster, right? Like there's some good things that have come out of it. There's obviously been some terrible decisions that have come out of it, and you find yourself left with really a mid feeling, and that's just maybe that's just who we are right now. We're a middle of the road type of franchise, and got to make a move at some point to try to find ourselves in a position where we are all excited about it. Now, there's still a chance. Maybe they get hot and they win a bunch of games in a row, and winning does cure everything. I know that. It just does. So we'll see. We'll see if they're capable of winning. And speaking of winning, a big reason as to why this team's won a good amount of games, and obviously not only a bunch of games, but today as well. Santillan today was perfect. Pagan also a bunch of punch-outs, 6 strikeouts between the two of them. They continue to kind of deliver, I guess. Pagan struggled there for a bit, it felt like, I will admit. Kind of felt like maybe the wheels were starting to kind of come off, but maybe we've rallied the troops, Nick. Maybe we got our second wind, and they're ready for the home stretch here.
0 walks today. Love to see that. You hope that the rest of those guys got. I mean, they both got pretty substantial rest in terms of a reliever in August. Like, it's hard to find the amount of rest that both of those guys got. You hope they recharge the batteries, because you got to continue. You're going to have to continue to rely on them. Now, Nick Martinez being in this bullpen, potentially Chase Burns, can only help those guys. But even with those guys, you're going to have to rely heavily on Santillan and Pagan Today they couldn't have looked any better. Cardinals lineup's not great, even though they looked pretty decent all weekend. They looked a lot better than they are. But yeah, big performance from those today. Those two guys that do give you a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and we'll see, obviously, moving forward if they're capable of continuing to be good, but they're going to have to be, because the Reds obviously don't have too many other options on the back end that we trust and believe in. I do think that obviously Martinez and perhaps Burns being added to this bullpen, that could help the opportunities and options down the stretch, but let's make no mistake that Santillan and Pagan are going to be the two guys that Tito is going to trust more than anything, and that's really all that matters when it comes out of the bullpen, because let's face it, no matter the situation at hand, whether you think that this guy might match up with this guy better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, Tito has showcased and been pretty adamant that Santillan and Pagan are pretty much going to throw in the 8th and 9th innings at almost all costs, even if maybe you could argue the biggest opportunities and the biggest bats will be coming up in the 6th or 7th inning. He's not really showcased doing that a whole lot. So Santillan and Pagan, that's it. They're going to be the back end guys, and we'll see whether or not they're capable of continuing to play well moving forward. MILB, we are getting down the stretch run here, Nick. I know Daytona, or not Daytona, but I know Dayton was red hot. I'll be interested to see if they continue to do that. But more importantly, we have some prospects that are starting to come up to the big leagues that people are excited to see. But who knows? Maybe people will still be excited about the Cheyenne Lins, the Austin Hendricks, and my guy Ty Lewis.
We'll start off with AAA. Interesting. Luis May pitched today, which is interesting because rosters expand on Monday. So you would think that if Luis May was the guy getting the call, he probably wouldn't have pitched on Sunday. At least that's what my brain would tell me. Yeah. Also pitched was Lyon Richardson on Sunday. So again, it seems like probably both of those guys are out, unless they just hadn't pitched and they felt like they needed to get an inning. It just would seem weird to me. Maybe Yasver Zulueta, I guess, would be the most likely because La Sorsa pitched today too. So maybe it would just be Yasver because they're planning on activating Burns on Friday and they just want some guy for 3 days. Maybe they had an extra bat for the series. That seems weird to me as well, but something to consider just with the rosters expanding tomorrow. My guess would be Yasver Zulueta. But nonetheless, the Louisville Bats, they played pretty good baseball of late. Their first game without Sal Stewart, they beat Columbus 7-5. Blake Dunn was 1 for 4. Hector Rodriguez 2 for 4. Ryan Valade 2 for 4 had a 2 RBI game-winning single in the 8th. CES was 1 for 4, as was Reese Hines. Solid outing from Jose Franco. He's one of maybe the starting pitchers that I don't think a lot of people maybe know, but could be a potential option for the Reds, maybe like a Julian Aguiar type. 4 innings, just gave up 1 earned run, struck out 6 batters today. Luis May, scoreless inning in a third, 1 hit and a strikeout. Lyon Richardson, he gave up a run in his inning of work for the Bats. Down to AA, Chattanooga, they beat Pensacola 7-2 in 10 innings. Lookouts, they, of course, begin their playoff series on September 16th. Edwin Arroyo was 2 for 5. Leo Balcazar, 3 for 5. Cam Collier, 1 for 4 with a walk. Jay Allen, 2 for 5 as well. Down to High A, the Dayton Dragons. They won their 13th straight game. They beat Fort Wayne 7-5. They tied a franchise record. What an unbelievable accomplishment for Dayton during an absolutely miserable season. Carlos Jorge 0 for 5. Carlos Sanchez 2 for 4 with a double. John Michael Fail hit his 13th home run of the season. And last but not least, down at Low A, Daytona, they swept the doubleheader. They beat Clearwater 4-2 and 1-0. The Tortugas now have a 5-game lead for a second half playoff spot with 6 games to play. So they are obviously in a very good spot. Alfredo Duno walked 3 times in the 2 games. Tyson Lewis was 2 for 7. Arnaldo Lantigua had a tough day. He was 0 for 6. Worth mentioning, Mason Morris, Reds' 3rd round pick, made his professional debut, and it was a pretty good one. 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 0 walks, 4 strikeouts. Plan on actually rewatching that tonight, and I'll give some more opinions on that. Might clip it up for the Chatterbox socials as well. And then Jean-Pierre Ortiz, new top 30 prospect for the Reds, had a great day. 4 innings, 0 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts. He's having a great season. 7-1, 2.99 ERA in 25 appearances.
How long until Hector Rodriguez is kind of in a spot where you like, you know what, let's just spin the tires here? Obviously, it's not going to be during a pennant race, but pennant race isn't a wild card race to be very clear.
If Will Benson can't get an at bat, why does Hector Rodriguez deserve an at bat?
Well, because
Hector Rodriguez hasn't played in the major leagues yet.
Probably.
There's no way on God's green earth that Hector Rodriguez, who I love, great prospect, I love everything about him, is a better player right now than Will Benson, who can't even crack a lineup.
Yeah. At this point, I'm like, I've never obviously really done drugs, but I'm just under the assumption that if you did them, I could understand that you're chasing like a high, you're looking for something, you're looking for a feeling that you just seemingly seems out of grasp. I'm kind of there, if we're being honest. Not in the sense that I think that it's the right move to bring him back to Rodriguez and play him over the likes of Austin Hayes or whatever. But I've seen Austin Hayes play. I've watched enough at bats. He's fine. It's cool. I've watched TJ Friedl play long enough. I get it. It's cool. It's fine. It's not a big deal. It's good. It's kind of like a Honda Accord, Like, actually, Honda. That would be, I think, disrespectful to Honda Accords. Maybe it's like a Ford Focus or something where it's like it works, kind of. Definitely works, but I'm watching TV. I kind of want to see maybe a chance at watching a Lamborghini. It might blow up, might not work at all, might not even turn on. But I'm looking for ceilings here. And you're not wrong. I mean, and then other people are gonna really hate me for saying this, and I'll just tell you because it's on my heart. I'd love to see Will Benson play a significant amount the last 30 days because I just would like to see it personally. I'd like to see what that looks like. There's just been flashes from him throughout his career that make you think like, damn, dude, that ceiling is really high. He played a great center field defensively for a guy that really didn't get a chance to play out there all that much. He played it at an excellent level. But I know it's not going to happen because the floor is too low. The floor is way too low for him, for this staff to give him opportunities. Seems like they're okay with being mid. The Reds staff seems like they're fine with having a bunch of average players. But they don't want to have anybody that perhaps might not be an average player, but definitely there's a small chance that they're a way above average player, or at least above average player. So, I don't know.
You just have to be a Noelve Marte and just kind of get your opportunity and just, boy, you better run with it and never look back, or that's the only way you're going to be able to
and the only reason he even got that long of an opportunity, Nick, is because of the injuries that existed on this team, and or else he wouldn't have gotten them. Like if TJ Friedl gets hurt for like 3 months instead of a week and a half or whatever the hell it was, I know he's on. He also had the paternity leave. Will Benson looked pretty solid. I mean, it's not just Will Benson too. To be clear, CES is another guy that I think that deserves a legitimate chance. We just gave up on him like insanely quickly. While our production at DH, by the way, and first base was, from an OPS plus standpoint, significantly low. So, I don't know.
Reds have interesting decisions this offseason. I mean, who stays, who goes, who you count on next year and who you don't, because you're going to, with the limitations that they have financially, that they're given financially, the front office, like you have to pick All right,
Yeah.
and I think we know they're gonna bank on Matt McClain over Will Benson or Reese Hines or CES or go down the list. But you have to kind of pick who you're gonna roll with and who you're gonna try to find a better option for. It feels like an offseason where there will be a lot of players that played in the big leagues this year that get traded. It feels like there will be multiples that get traded. I guess last year was too. Fernando Cruz got traded. Jonathan India got traded. Joey Weimer got traded. Is there anyone else that got traded?
No, I don't know. Honestly, I'm at the point in the show where I'm just sitting here thinking through all these players and what they mean for me in 2026, and it's just it's a dark place. It's a dark place for me. I don't really believe in a lot of these guys, man. By a lot of these guys, I'm talking about like I don't know. I'm getting myself in trouble in the show. I don't know. I don't know if Spencer Steer will ever be that much of a better player than he was this year, which isn't good enough at an everyday position. I don't know if TJ Friedl is going to regress or continue to regress because he's been saved by the bell right now, really off of a 40-day window that's been unbelievably good. Which, to be fair, he had it. He had the 40-day window. But again, I'm just looking like it's not like he's 22 years old, and I expect him to get better. He's at some point also going to have an issue where his body is going to start to fail him at some point a little bit, and he, I don't know. People are asking what it's going to take to get Austin Hayes to come back. It's like, you guys think that's what it's going to be? You think bringing back Austin Hayes is going to be the difference maker for 2026? He's just getting another year older, and he's already injury prone. Are we going to put our faith in that?
He's interesting because I was looking at him. I had kind of just assumed like he was obviously on fire earlier in the year, and it's like, oh, Austin Hayes is clearly going to decline the Reds option. It's a mutual option for $12 million. There's a $1 million buyout. So if the Reds are the one that decides to deny it, they have to pay him $1 million to not play for them. But is Austin Hayes going to get more than $12 million? Like, it's almost like a Nick Martinez game of chicken. Like, you believe it was a game of chicken and the Reds lost. I don't believe that, but we've had that. But it does feel like Austin Hayes, like, it feels like 12 million is almost like gotta be close to his max, at least for one season that he'd get.
My thing, Nick, is more or less, and maybe I'm just being like overly pessimistic on the idea of what the Reds can and can't do, right? My thing is like they got to do something that's going to get them to where you feel like they are a significantly better team. And I know it's not fair to ask because they're not going to go out and get some crazy big off-season acquisition in regards to like a bat or something like that. I don't think it'll happen. I know people are laughing at the idea of Kyle Schwarber or something like that. And I think that's a little far-fetched. But you know what I'll say about the Kyle Schwarber thing? There is, at least at some point, I do think, and I don't know if the Reds are there yet. I do think that there's a small chance that you have where a guy has played in big city after big city. He's from here. You can convince me that he would take a little less money, like if he really wanted to possibly play in his hometown. That's possible. The question is like, would the Reds be willing to spend the money that's a little less money to a guy like Kyle Schwarber? I don't know. They've already kind of shot their wad a little bit out there with Candelario, and you can say whatever you want, but that's a part of it. So we'll see. I mean, Go ahead.
The problem with Schwarber, I agree. I think it would be possible. It's just this free agent class sucks. It's terrible. Like, he's going to be coveted way more than other years. If it was a loaded free agent class, I think there'd be a much more realistic chance of Schwarber. But the fact that there's like so few options for teams that have fun money to spend, that's what makes it just seem like the Reds they won't even be able to, I think, get in the door with them. And he's one of the guys, like, I'm not normally, like, I was very anti-Anthony Santander. Schwarber's a different level. That guy's a different level. He's proven it for a long time. He's the one kind of that just full. I don't think the Reds, there's like 9 out of 10 DH onlys I would say the Reds should not even touch. Schwarber's that one.
And I think he's also clearly been a part of a lot of locker rooms and clubhouses that you could say would make a Scott Rowland type presence or a Scott Rowland type of impact, if you want to call it that, of a leadership situation. I think that whole thing is a little far-fetched more times than not, if we're being completely honest. But I do think that there is something about that I would also value. I don't know. My point in saying all these things more or less is not to be roundabout, sit here and discuss things over and over again and not get anywhere. It's just, I don't get excited about Austin Hayes we've already done this song and dance again. It's just not, put it this way. I don't think it changes this team enough to make it even worth the chance of him being also bad. That's also. And not even just bad, Nick. I would also say, too, if he can't play left field, then it's a big difference in regards to his value. And he's showcased this season already that for a vast majority of the season, either they didn't trust him to play left field, or he told them that he was in a spot where he couldn't play left field because of the calf or whatever else he has going on. And you add in a whole nother year of father time on that. I'm just not into it. I hate to be like so out on a guy that I don't think deserves to have criticism or anything like that. But I just don't believe Austin Hayes is the difference at all.
My last thought on it, I generally, I think I agree with you in principle that I don't think, and you need to think about Austin Hayes as $11 million, not 12, because the one is gone no matter what. Right. So it's basically, do we want to sign Austin Hayes for $11 million for 1 year or not? I think in general, yeah, you say we can do better than that. But when you have a weak free agent class already, like go look at the free agents. It's not great. I feel like you could decline that option, and then you get to the end of the offseason and you're like, oh, we're stuck with something worse, right? That's where I think it maybe becomes. But we have a whole month. We have a whole month left to see Austin Hayes. And what he does in September, for me, can really swing it pretty big one way or the other, whether I'm more interested in that or not.
Yeah.
For those hating me, please, I beg you, look at the free agent class. Please look at the free agents, especially the outfielders, and go tell me, realistically, who could be in the Reds' budget that could be a better option. That's what I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. And if you disagree with me at that point, that's fair, but please look at it.
I think it's pretty safe to say, though, and this is how I genuinely feel on most things. Winning 83 games and winning 76 games is the same to me. Now, I know why you wouldn't feel that way. I get why some people would say, well, that's crazy talk. You have a winning season versus not. I don't care anymore, man. You either get a team that's good enough to make it to the postseason or you don't. And the postseason, to be fair, I don't think is like some unrealistic bar because of the way that MLB is anymore. That's all I'm asking. And I got to tell you, Austin Hayes isn't like I'm buying my season ticket package to ensure that I get postseason opportunities. I mean, we'll see. We have a whole offseason to talk about it, but on a Chatterbox Reds night, on a Sunday night edition, after we've been gone for a few days, why not go into the weeds? Who knows? Make it a 2-hour show. Make Nick's life real miserable at night to talk about 9 different topics of 9 different things. But I don't know, man. This podcast
has about 3 hours of life because the Reds play at 1 o'clock on Monday. No one's gonna listen to this after 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
My last point, again, and I said this with Martinez too. You have to also factor the risk of signing guys that are complete busts. And I hate to bring up Jeimer Candelario, my guy Will Myers. Kind of makes Austin Hayes look a little bit better.
Yeah.
But those contracts fail at least 50% of the time. It's not the Reds, it's everyone across baseball. Those mid-level guys, it's a complete disaster at least 50% of the time.
I mean, those people in the chat that are obviously upset about certain things. I seen something earlier I'm going to defend you on really fast because I think that I forget who it was, and I know this is probably a bad thing to do in the show. You can obviously cut it for the podcast here real quick, but I think that the many people, we have 260 loyal people right now in this chat on a 10:50 on a Sunday night. Listen, when Nick is saying that Matt McLean over the next 30 days will provide him a silver lining if he looks like his former self, it's not because he's suggesting that his season is saved. I mean, what the hell? What do you think he's saying? All he's saying is that maybe that guy is still there and he will have the confidence heading into 2026 that he'll be able to showcase that for the rest of 2026 and beyond. That's what the silver lining is. It's not because he had a decent year. It has nothing to do with it, to be clear. And the only last thing I'm going to say in the chat is our guy saying you can't move the goalpost. For 30 years, you just asked for a competitive baseball team. Now you want the playoffs? What are you talking about? With all due respect, I'm asking for them to be a competitive baseball team, and I don't know what world you live in, but the world that I live in, a competitive baseball team typically is right there around the playoffs, if not making the playoffs. I mean,
7 out of the 15 teams in the league make the playoffs, brother.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost half of the entire National League is going to make the playoffs. I mean, it's just not that high of a bar, man. It's not. We can act like it is, but it's not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can just be the Brewers 1 year. They can have it for 9 years. We get 1 year. You know, I think that should be a fair trade. We'll see. I don't know. I have hope. I have some hope moving forward. In regards to 2025, Nick, I got little to none. But I'll say this. I'm going to watch the games. I'm going to root like hell for them to win. I'm not giving up, okay? And if they don't win, there's still other things I'd like to see. But as far as my disappointment more than anything is just that the guys that I think that actually might, even if it's a sliver of a chance, and I will admit it is a lottery ticket. I will admit the chances are not high. But there's a lot of guys in this organization that I think have a chance to make a big enough of a difference to get you to a spot where you might actually make the postseason, and they don't play. And yeah, sue me if I think CES has a higher ceiling at first base than Spencer Steer. Sue me if I think that Will Benson has a higher ceiling than whoever we decided to run out there in left field, center field, and right field half the time this year as well. Sue me if you think that Sal Stewart shouldn't have been called up a week ago just to kick the tires around and see if we can't score more than, maybe two and a half, maybe at most 3 runs a game. That's all. We sit here and we make fun of the fact that we don't think home runs matter. And the only games we win anymore, folks, the only games we ever win are the games where we hit home runs. It's a weird coincidence. I know it seems like it's a stupid thought. It's a prayer. Maybe we're looking. I know Brian Hayes. He came over from Pittsburgh. He's already got the company line. We're trying to hit the ball low, hit hard ground balls, hit the ball through the middle, hit the ball through the backside. I get it. That's a good mindset to have when you're hitting. But the reality is that we only win. Let's say it again. We really only win if we hit the ball for extra bases or over the fence. We have not won at all this year when we've strung together 6 singles in a row, 4 different innings. It just hasn't happened. And until we get more guys that can actually hit extra base hits and hit the ball over the fence, we're just not going to win that many games. Not enough games. Not enough. Because I got to remind everybody, I'll be the toxic guy on the way out. And I have no problem being it. We've had the best pitching in all of Major League Baseball. Not one other franchise, not one other team out of the other, all throughout the country, and some would even say not just in this country, but the other country as well. We'll even go to Canada. None of them can say that they've had better pitching. And yet, where do we find ourselves? We find ourselves on the outside looking in. Because our small ball BS kids show doesn't work. Bunting guys over, first and second, nobody out. We can try it again. Hell, why not? Just we could do it again. But it's not probably going to work. By the way, Tito looks like a genius on the after the fact, but we're not only bunting guys over, we're bunting them over for guys that have been quite literally the worst offensive players on this team hitting next. And, by the way, if they're incapable of getting him in, the guy after that, who also hits leadoff, has been one of the worst offensive players from a production standpoint, not getting on base maybe. You could use that as your scapegoat if you'd like. But I'm talking about driving guys in as the next guy. It's really tough when you add on the fact that they play a great American ballpark. But you know what? They play again, Nick, and I'm going to watch it. So let's talk about that. Who, what, when, where, and you know what? Maybe even the why, because I might need that.
Yeah, I don't understand it. The sacrifice thing. The team that Terry Francona took to the World Series in Cleveland had 31 sacrifice hits in 2016. That was below the major league average. So I don't really understand what happened here. But the Reds are going to take on David Bell's Blue Jays, who are 79-58, 3 games ahead in the AL East over the Yankees. 6th best odds to win the World Series. They do only have a plus 56 run differential. The Yankees are at plus 134, so that sucks for them. The Blue Jays, 23-15 in one-run games, 8-4 in extra inning games. So I wonder what that's like. The positives, though, they are 42-24 at home, but 34-34 on the road. But they have dominated the NL 28-17. Not playing their best baseball, 6-7 in their last 13, and they are 2-3 in their last road series. Their only road series wins at the Rockies and at the Marlins. Really good offense. They rank 2nd in Major League Baseball in OPS. They don't steal a lot, 4th fewest stolen bases. Their bullpen has been really struggling. They had a 5.72 ERA since the All-Star break entering Sunday. Only the Rockies worse. Their closer is old friend Jeff Hoffman, and Hoffman on Saturday set a Blue Jays record for the most home runs allowed in the 9th inning or later with 12 this season on Saturday. He has a 5.11 ERA. Their offense, George Springer, incredible resurgent year for him, hitting 300, OPS of 926. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Dalton Varsho, Bo Bichette all having good season. And on the Jays bench, Ty France and Tyler Heineman, brother of old friend Scott Heineman. Anthony Santander has been out on the IL since May, hit just a $179 with a 577 OPS in his time with the Jays. Reds will miss Kevin Gossman in the series as well as Max Scherzer. Monday, 110 Hunter Green against Chris Bassett, the right-handed pitcher. All right-handed pitchers this week. Tuesday, 6:40 Nick Lodolo against Jose Barrios, and Wednesday, 6:40 Zach Littell against Shane Bieber. This will only be Bieber's 3rd start of 2025, coming off his 2nd Tommy John surgery. Last notes here, Chris Bassett, career 2.88 ERA in 3 games against the Reds, but hasn't faced them since 2023. 2023 was his only career start at Great American Ballpark. TJ Friedl homered against him. Elly was 2 for 3 with a double and a triple. The guys that have seen him more haven't done well. Andujar 0 for 7. Cabrian Hayes 1 for 6. Austin Hayes 2 for 8. Gavin Lux 2 for 9. And Jose Trevino 3 for 10. But Hunter Green on the mound, Labor Day. Have to feel good about that.
That we do. And there's 2 minutes left currently in the Notre Dame versus Miami football game, and it's tied 24-24. So you know what? For all of us and for all of you, well, you have other sources. I know well aware that you probably have a way to watch the game if you need to. But nonetheless, I just want to say thank you for watching this show. We very much appreciate you. I have a little bit of what we call a back situation, so I'm not dunking basketballs. Certainly, I'm not dunking basketballs on a night like this where I've watched an absolute piss poor of a performance over the last week. And they did win a game today, though. So I give them credit. They did win today. They kept the season alive. And, Nick, there's still a chance. And that's all that really matters. You got to remember, there's still a chance. Final reminder, Smoke Justice, Tuesday, 4:30 to 6:30. Live pregame show with myself, Craig Sandlin, and obviously Nick Kirby going to join as well in regards to a remote situation. 302 Court Street, Covington, Kentucky. Come on down, say hi. We very much would appreciate you guys showing out one more time, and we'll have as much fun as you humanly can at Smoke Justice on Tuesday, September 2nd, 4:30 to 6:30. So for myself, Nick Kirby, Craig Sandlin behind the scenes, thank you to him for helping us out on these late night editions of Chatterbox Reds. And thank you, all of you, for being very much loyal supporters of this show. I just want to say one last time, hit the like button on your way out. Go Reds. Season's not dead, baby. As much as I get upset about this roster, season's not dead. Season's not dead. And we'll see you all better than ever again tomorrow. Take care, everybody.